Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. It's a Wednesday edition, and I'm up here alone. I'm not alone, but it looks like I'm alone. But welcome into this show today, because this is going to be a heck of a show. You know why? Because we currently have 18 minutes, or 18 hours, 13 minutes, and about 59 seconds until March Madness starts. That is going to be sweet, right, everybody? Come pop up in here now. Come on, don't.
I was wondering how long it was going to take him to say anything about anybody else being on the show. Matt, we can see the Cheeto dust on your fingers.
That was in my teeth, too. I tried to eat them all before the show started. It's gone, but...
Yeah, I was like, you know what? This will be great. I'll just pop him on there. It's his day. Let's see if he'll notice right away.
He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say. Oh, gosh.
Oh, dear.
Oh my god!
Somehow this guy is hosting a podcast.
How'd that happen?
Who knows?
Oh man,
who let this guy be in charge for a day? Oh wait, I think that was.
I'm gonna start clipping these beginning of the show and just put them on our social media. I put them on TikTok.
Oh dear.
No comment.
That'd be cool.
Well, in case you didn't hear, welcome to the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alek, Koberna, Matt Morrison, and Mike Wolfgang for today's show. We're trying out a new layout here. We're going to work on a new background coming up, too. Let us know if you like this or the side-by-sides better.
I like the side-by-sides. I get distracted when they're up in the...
You're not the audience,
shape. I don't care.
You know, Matt's telling me before the show, oh, man, this layout's kind of cool. Maybe we should do this. And then I was going, I like this one.
I like this one.
We're here regardless.
All right, well.
Keep going back and forth between
a guy and a hat.
Just randomly switch it throughout the show.
Okay.
Yeah, just randomly switch the settings.
Give people headaches.
Right, yeah. Everyone's going to be just nauseated by the
Wait, he was just there?
Yeah, they're looking everywhere. Look.
Wait, where's the one that's talking? If we all just move our mouth at the exact same time, no one will be able to tell, right?
Yeah. But, all right, Alek, I'm going to let you take here. Let's just get into college basketball here.
All right, man. I'm looking forward to it. Day 3 of our conversations here about March Madness. And, Mike, you're going with a big change up here. Yesterday, we talked UConn versus New Mexico State. We went UConn unanimously across the board. You're backtracking, though. You're changing up your pick here. You're going to take New Mexico State at 5 upset. Give us some reasons here on your change up.
First of all, this is just part of March Madness. We got 3 days to sit on it. You fill out a bracket. You think, I'm going to change this. So that's kind of what happened. But I was reading up about potential, 5-12 upsets, 4-13 upsets. And, it's usually beneficial to pick at least one because it's bound to happen. And there was a list of them. I think there was a couple other ones that I was considering. But I caught New Mexico State's eye because I was reading up on the game summary between these two teams. UConn's top heavy, but New Mexico State, they play, I think they said 11 out of their 15 guys. So they go deep on the roster. So they're going to be able to keep fresh legs in. They're going to, keep their shooters, engaged in the game and keep things going. So I think at that part, that's kind of why I went New Mexico State. There's some other 5-12 matchups that were interesting too, but I just went that route because their ability to go deep, and they've done that all year.
All right. Well, for those of you out there, maybe consider looking at New Mexico State as the potential 12-5 upset. We went across a lot of 12-5 teams yesterday, and we have our newest 12-5 matchup. We're not going to talk about just yet. We're saving this one for tomorrow's edition of the show. Maybe might have to change things up. We'll see. But Indiana has punched their ticket to the big dance over Wyoming. They got St. Mary's in the first round. Should be exciting to see. Texas Southern won their first matchup as well. In that first 4, they will take on Kansas. So the 1 versus 16. Probably not going to see the upset there. But let's go to the game that we're actually talking about. And it's a potential Mountain West team making a nice little run here in this dance. Colorado State versus Michigan. Michigan, the team everybody's been hating on because they get this 11th spot. People didn't like they got over Texas A&M, over teams like Indiana, Notre Dame, who had to go through play-in games. There was a lot of controversy about this Michigan spot, and they're most likely to lose in this first round. 54% of users have picked Michigan here, but all the metrics sit on the side of Colorado State besides one, and that is strength of schedule. Colorado State, despite not having a top 25 matchup, is still 60th in the strength of schedule, while Michigan has faced 9 top 25 teams and is 2-7 with the strength of schedule that ranks just 3rd in the nation. But to me, guys, Michigan, they finished out the season so terribly, man. 5-5. They were winning one, losing one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one. The entire final stretch of the season. This team is too inconsistent. Even if they win in the first round against Colorado State, we haven't seen anything in over a month's time that they can put back-to-back wins together.
First of all, I don't care who they're playing. I don't care if I was to lose this game or not. I was picking against them no matter what.
Because you don't like them, but when I do it with Ohio State, I get made fun of.
No.
Yeah, I do.
You get made fun of by Alek. I'm over here just hi. But I just can't stand Michigan. I can't stand the whole state. Some guy told me, like, you've heard the team up north or whatever, but one guy I heard when I was working called them the Southern Canada team. I was laughing so hard. So we might have to say that a couple times. If you're sick of saying, oh, the team up north, just say the Southern Canadian team. Like, you don't even acknowledge that they're part of the United States. Like, I think that's honestly better.
Nah, I mean, I could just call them, East Wisconsin.
Or that, yeah.
They got that little handle up there disconnected from the rest of the state. Cool.
But the Southern Canadian team, that's the first time I've ever heard that, and I was laughing so hard when the guy said it. But, I mean, Colorado State, though, they're a complete team. They have been winning all year, and we've talked about them consistently. And we've also talked about Michigan, too, but we've talked how bad Michigan is and how good Colorado State is. So it only makes sense that every one of us picks Colorado State here, because we've been talking bad about Michigan all year. And we were like, they shouldn't even be in this. They, like Indiana, even Wyoming, like, they should have been automatic spots over them, honestly. They shouldn't even been in the play-in, in my opinion.
You can argue that.
But
why would you put them in?
Hey, man, you gotta remember one thing. We kind of talked about this yesterday with a couple of teams that we think could potentially make a run because of experience. Michigan is one of those teams, man. They got plenty of experimenting. They were in the Elite Eight last year, despite the fact that they were one of the most beat up, injured squads. They looked like they were limping into March Madness before they shot off. So you got to remember that this team has come out of nowhere before. You can expect them to maybe do that again against common opponents. Michigan is 2-0. Colorado State is 1-4. So, the numbers for Colorado State make them look like a team that could make a run. I mean, 13th in the nation in field goal percentage, 66th in three-point percentage, and 15th in free throw percentage. They're a really phenomenal shooting team, but maybe the one biggest part going up against these Power 6 schools with Michigan and potentially Tennessee in the next round, they play small ball. And we've seen how that affects teams in the playoffs in really every state of college hoops, NBA, and even in high school. I mean, it works to an extent, but once you go up against a squad that knows how to use their height efficiently, you see a team kind of slip up because they don't know how to play against a lot of size. Now, luckily, not a lot of teams have a massive amount of size, but Colorado State is going to be playing small ball. They got guys that can pull down 14 rebounds in the Mountain West. I want to see if they can do it here against Michigan. It's going to come down to David Roddy going big for this squad here. He's a small ball 5, do-it-all player. And, this is a team that's top 20 in per possession offense. And, they finished second in the Mountain West regular season, won the Mountain West title, or actually didn't win the Mountain West title, came in second in that title game, losing to San Diego State. But it's been a phenomenal ride. But I don't want everyone getting caught up in the lights of Colorado State getting that 6th seed. Michigan is a very real potential threat to Colorado State in this team, for really all the reasons.
Even though, like, I don't think that they should be here or anything, they're going to try and prove. I mean, we're not the only ones that think that they shouldn't be here. There's tons of people that are like, why Michigan? How'd they get in? They're going to try and prove everybody wrong, and that's what probably makes them one of the most dangerous teams in this tournament. They're not supposed to be there, and they're going to try and prove people wrong.
What makes them dangerous is what Alex said, their experience. And you guys can say we can all say what we want about the Juwan Howard stuff. He's coming back for this, so they got their coach back.
He'll be back.
They weren't playing well at the beginning of the year.
How great they played without him too. I mean, that fight may have actually lit a fire for them too.
And they were starting. Yeah, they last weekend they beat Ohio State with it seemed like with their assistant coach they were getting it going, but. Juwan Howard's their guy, and all those guys are there because of him. And the thing with Hunter Dickinson, he's their guy, and I want to see how Colorado State can deal with that. I'm picking Colorado State to win this game, but I actually consider flipping to Michigan as well.
I think it would have made more sense to have them against Ohio State. If Ohio State was a 6 seed, they'd be playing them. They're a 7 seed. They're right there. That would have been the ultimate first round game in history. That Michigan versus Ohio State. Huh?
Talking about putting butts in seats, that gets the job done.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's in Pittsburgh. You get a good amount of fans there.
Oh man, we'd be going.
Ohio State versus Loyola is just as awesome, though. I can't.
Oh yeah.
I can't say I'm not looking forward to that one.
But
and hey, potentially Sweet 16 matchup between Ohio State and Michigan if both teams could get there, which seems unlikely given Ohio State's terrible luck in March Madness and Michigan not looking like the team. But Matt, you're going Colorado State too?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I initially had Colorado State down, but this conversation, I think I flipped this one in my mind. I'm actually going to take Michigan to win this game against Colorado State. What, Matt? I picked Michigan to win a game before. I don't like doing it, but
we're here to pick who we think's going to win.
You have picked them, but
this is one of those games. It's like they have the experience. Colorado State's under a 4th-year head coach. They're young. They're playing small ball. If their outside shot isn't falling, Michigan's gonna dominate. It's the one thing with Michigan; they have tons of talent on that squad. It's undeniable. Plus, you bring in the coaching experience of a guy who's been at this situation plenty of times from the Fab Four era in Juwan Howard. I mean, he's one of the best coaches when it's going to come down to this scenario because he knows what it takes. You saw that last year. They came with a beat-up squad that looked like they should have gotten booted out in the first or second round, and they make it down to the Elite Eight. That's because of coaching. That falls back to he knows scenarios in situational basketball. And in March Madness, talent's great, but at the end of the day, you got to have heart and you got to know what the heck you're doing at the right moment. And I don't think anyone's going to know that better than a guy that's been there on that stage himself in Juwan Howard. And that's why I'm going to give this game over to Michigan over Colorado State. They just have the experience.
And, the interesting thing is, when I was looking at these upsets earlier, the reason I flipped in New Mexico State, this game was actually on that list too. Is Michigan being a team that can upset a 6-seed team.
Is it really an upset though? To me, I mean,
not really.
Given a non-power conference, I mean, this is a mid-major team in Colorado State, a 6-seed. To me, it's not an upset. It's a good season for the Mountain West.
Yeah, that is true. This is definitely not an upset game. Both teams. I mean, Michigan, you don't really look like if they win, it's an upset because they've been there. Colorado. It's more like if Colorado State wins, it's an upset. Honestly. Because Michigan's been there time and time again.
Go ahead.
Let's look on one of the other sides of a 6 versus 11 matchup. Alabama versus Rutgers or Notre Dame. Either way. Notre Dame has more wins on the season than Bama, more in-conference wins, less losses than all that. Rutgers, one less win overall, but more wins in conference with a less loss and higher in conference. That's a 6 versus 11 matchup. Would that be called an upset if Rutgers or Notre Dame takes down Alabama? No, because they had a better record. They were the better team. They just fall this way because Alabama got luck of the draw and, Big Ten had, 10 teams get a chance to make the dance? So, to me, this is not – 6-11 really isn't an upset spot because you get a lot of weird rankings. Are there scenarios where it could be? Sure, but this season, LSU, Iowa State, that's not going to be an upset. Michigan, Colorado State, it'd be more of an upset if Colorado State comes out on top. They're the non-power conference in this game.
They are. First of all –
that's my thought on it, at least.
Yeah, I get that. But, the whole play-in thing, the first 4 – why are they like an 11 seed? Why are they a little higher than those teams? Shouldn't they be a 16 seed?
You think I don't know how the metrics works. I think that has to do with the automatic bids. This is just where the not automatic bids kind of start is at that 11-10 spot.
Okay.
Or they just get the luck of the draw and they get put in here, so they gotta kind of have to earn that spot.
Or 12
they won their conference championship. Yeah, this is the at-large bids where these teams get in, so they have to compete to get that at-large spot because the rest of these pretty much are all you win and you're in from your tournament.
Okay, yeah, most of them are, yeah, but I get that. But all right. Let's move on.
All right. Well, let's go to a team that pretty much has the first win in this year's March Madness. Texas Southern taking on Kansas now. Obviously, I think pretty much everyone is going to be taking Texas. I mean, not Texas Southern. Going to be taking Kansas to take this game. But hey, man, you never know.
I'd love it.
Things off for Texas Southern. I mean, 76-67, getting a 9-point win, and you saw their guy ETN go for 21 points and 5 rebounds.
ETN.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I know. It looks very similar too.
Does he? I'm gonna look. Keep talking.
No, but just in this game, I mean, you saw Texas Southern. They came out, won the first half, dominated the second. They pulled away from the CC Islanders the entire time. And I think when you get to this point, you don't expect dominations, especially in that first 4 from 2 conference champions, obviously. And the entire time, I mean, the win probability was sitting on the side of Texas Southern, except for a couple nice runs here and there. I mean, there was one point where A&M CC took the lead down there about halfway through that second half of action. They were up 55-51, and then a huge run came on the side of Texas Southern, and they ran away. And for me right now, you look at where Texas Southern finished in conference. They were 13-5 overall in the Southwestern Atlantic down there in the SWAC. It was a fun conference to watch this year. This is a team coming out of it. I think a lot of people are going to expect Kansas to blow this team out in the first round. They didn't shoot the ball well from distance, and they still win by nearly 10 points. They out-rebounded the CC Islanders 45-37. They were pulling down a lot. If they can clean up their turnovers, they had 15 against CC. If they can turn that up, I think they got a much better position to make this game, a little interesting. I'm still taking Kansas to win, and I don't think Southern's got to go up against, Okaya Agbaji.
Kansas.
This is a potential Final Four championship level squad for Kansas this season. They got the talent. Just to me, the only thing, do they have that killer mentality? That's the only thing I've seen missing from them this season was that killer instinct at the right moment.
Yeah, and I watched at the end of this game last night. I didn't watch the whole game, but I like what Texas Southern's head coach kept saying there. It was a close game when I turned it on with like 5 minutes left. It was like a 4-point game. He kept saying, we're 4 minutes away. We're, 3 minutes away, 5 minutes, whatever it was, that we're that close to getting in the tournament. And they pulled away at the end. They pulled away with good free throw shooting too. That's what you like to see in the tournament, to be able to hit free throws, because that's big in the tournament. And, I don't, like you said, I don't know if they could, we're not picking them to beat Kansas, but there's a potential there for them to make a big game for sure, or a decent game.
Go Texas Southern. Every time I hear Texas Southern, I just immediately think of the movie Glory Road, because the name is so similar to that. Yeah, I know they were a top-ranked team during that year, but still, nobody expected that at all. But that would be so sweet. Was it 4 years ago today that UMBC beat Virginia?
Yeah, I saw that.
So this would be sweet. If this is if I want a bracket buster, this is what I want. I want a 16 seed taking out my 1
UMBC, man, they did it.
I don't. I got Kansas going a long way. I don't want that happening.
Yeah. I'd love Gonzaga. That'd be so sweet, though. Gonzaga loses the first round.
Just because you hate Gonzaga.
I don't think they should be where they are. But
what?
That's
one of the dumbest things you said.
I have them going far. Okay, they've got a clear path, pretty much. But
whatever.
It's the same way I feel about the Colorado Avalanche with them. If they were in a Mountain West conference, Alek, we were talking about that a little bit. If they were in that conference and won that whole conference out, and they were number 1 seed through that, heck yeah, I'd give them respect, because there's some tough teams in that conference. So, but
I mean, there's tough teams all over, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, there is.
You look at records, look at recruiting. At the end of the day, anybody can win. This is still a bunch of college kids out there on the basketball floor, throwing a ball at an iron rim. There's only so much special about one guy that can do so much. It's not like they're playing out there with a guy that's been in the NBA for 20 years. They're playing with a kid that's fresh out of high school, just like they are. At the end of the day, it's 2 kids on a basketball floor, or 10 kids on a basketball floor going at each other. And that's why UMBC won, because they realized that, hey, the only thing that's separating us from them is a fancy name.
That's true.
Because at the end of the day, you know what? There's a very old saying, if talent doesn't show up, heart will win 9 times out of 10. Because if you got the heart and the guys that, are better than you won't do anything about it. They know they're better than you and they underestimate you. That's when upsets happen. That's what we see so much in basketball during the regular season, especially. Teams get underestimated and they get smacked because of it.
That is true. We've seen it time and time again. But I also want to throw this in here that what's that division that they're in? The WCC?
Who, Gonzaga?
Yeah, what is it again?
Yeah, West Coast Conference.
Okay, it's probably the best that they have been in years because they got 3 teams in it with Zaga and St. Mary's and then San Francisco. That's probably the first time that they're more than one team is in it, at least for a long time. So I mean, this is probably the best year that whole conference has had.
Yeah, and even your San Francisco
teams into this tournament, that's pretty cool.
Your San Francisco team's in it too.
And I have St. Mary's going a little bit farther. So. But not so much San Francisco.
Yeah, well, let's head this into the next game then. Memphis versus Boise State, 2 of the mid-major teams that, might actually make some noise here. The only thing I think you might have to avoid is don't get caught up on a fancy 8-9 team because remember, they'll have to take on number 1. You don't see that upset very much. Number 1 teams are normally locks to the Sweet 16. You got to be very careful looking at one of these 2 teams to go far in your brackets this year. I like Memphis, I think, a little bit more than Boise State. This one, they're about equal when it comes to net rating. The thing for me, who have you gone up against this season? Memphis has had 4 top 25 matchups, won 3 of them. Boise State has 1 in which they lost. So for me, that definitely is a little bit of a gambling point between the 2 teams. One's got experience in big moments against big teams and coming out on top. Then you look on the other side here when you go to points allowed per game, I should say, 8.4 less for Boise State. They only allow 60 points per game on the season. Now, Memphis scoring is a lot better in that situation, and you see that reflected in the field goal percentages. Both teams suck at the free throw line. This becomes a free throw battle. You're going to want to close your eyes. So there's a couple big things. Memphis obviously not going to be able to play without potentially one of the best young athletes in college basketball, and Moni Bates, who's pretty much been out the whole year with that back injury. I mean, he was averaging 10 points per game. And I think that's definitely a huge loss down at this point of the season. And the 2 injuries out for Boise aren't even guys that really even played at all. So Moni Bates not being here for Memphis is definitely one thing to look at. He kind of fell around halfway through this team. Then they're going to have to rely on other guys, but they haven't. And that's the biggest thing with Memphis right now. When they brought in a guy like James Wiseman last year and head coach Penny Hardaway, they started building this squad for the future. And I think this is one of the biggest steps to it is getting this win in March Madness, taking down Boise State, and at least maybe making some noise against Gonzaga because, Gonzaga's not in a major conference either. They're in one of these secondhand conferences in the WCC. A good year for them, no doubt. But much like the Mountain West, Colorado State, good, yeah, great. But it was a great year for the conference, which is why you see multiple teams in. You don't normally see, Gonzaga's counterparts, especially 2 of them making it in. You'll get St. Mary's sometimes or one other from the WCC making it. You don't see 2, maybe even 3 teams get in there more than once a decade. So for me, that's maybe one thing is you got a solid conference that Memphis plays in the American. You've seen how good Houston can be at points, and the recruiting has continued to shoot up for this Memphis squad.
That really has, and
they're probably more athletic.
Honestly, the main reason. I mean, right now, even though I'm not athletic at all, but Memphis would be cool to go play for because Penny Hardaway's your coach. Like, I'd love to be coached by Penny Hardaway. First of all, that's the number 1 thing right there. The guy was, Orlando Magic. He played with Shaq. Like, that's sweet. Now he's coaching with Memphis, and he played for Memphis. Like, that's sweet. That's got to be one of the top, attractions to go play there. I mean, you're going to play for Penny Hardaway.
Or, you can also just look at the prestige of this school, man. This is the team
that too, yeah.
They have the 26th highest winning percentage in NCAA history.
They play where the Grizzlies play
2 years ago. What?
Yeah, they play where the Grizzlies play at too. So you're playing an NBA arena.
Memphis is that town is cool. Like the food and everything. That they have a good city vibe down there too. So you got to look at that for kids going to school. Like people aren't going to go want to be in cold weather. They want to go have a nightlife, and Memphis is definitely one of them. And Nashville's not too far away, so. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a team that was runner-up in the NCAA tournament in 2008. I mean, they were in a Final Four that year. They went to 3 straight Final Fours Elite Eights from 06 to 08. I mean, this is a team with a lot of prestige. They dominated the 90s. They dominated the early 2000s. They dominated the early 2010s as well before finally kind of slipping up. That's when they bring in Penny Hardaway, and now they're back here for the first time since 2014. They haven't made it to the Sweet 16, though, since 2009. It's going to take a lot to get there this time.
You know who was on that team?
Gonzaga on the round of 32.
Derrick Rose.
Last time.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to be the guy this year, though?
They lost to Kansas with Mario Chalmers.
I think if Memphis has Imoni Bates on the squad and he's good to go, I think I take Memphis over Gonzaga. I think they'd have a shot.
Interesting.
I didn't have Memphis beating Gonzaga, but I had Arkansas beating Gonzaga.
I think Gonzaga can be beat. That's the one thing we saw different from last year. They dominated last year, and they were virtually,
undefeated. The only game they lost was the championship.
Right. So. You've seen cracks this year. I mean, you haven't seen them in a while, but they were there. And I think some teams can look at a blueprint and maybe figure out something. That's why I don't think Gonzaga is that locked to, be that team. I mean, I still have them in my championship game. It's at the point it's like,
I don't.
Prove me it's not going to happen, because every year we talk Gonzaga. Oh, they suck. They're boring. Oh, they have a weak schedule, a weak conference, and they're there. So.
Yeah, that is true.
When you got 2 of the top prospects in the NBA, including Chet Holmgren being one of them, that's going to be the matchup nightmare.
Timmy.
Yeah,
I love Chet Holmgren and Drew Timmy.
Who are you guys going with?
I got Memphis as well.
I got Memphis.
All right. Well, we can talk about Gonzaga another day. I'm sure we'll be able to talk plenty about them at some point down the line here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I mean, we're not going to be able to talk around the second round of this tournament. So we jump back into the Sweet 16 and talk about that before missing out on the Elite Eight. Then we get to talk championship stuff. So it'll come down quickly here in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. I mean, this thing will get wrapped up before you can really even think twice. So we got a lot to talk about after the season, I think, about these teams. They're going to give us plenty to think about. But let's go ahead and jump into the next game here. After Memphis and Boise State, let's look at another team from the Mountain West that had a fantastic season and finally made it back here into the dance in San Diego State. They have a terrible matchup against Big East's underdog, it seems, every year in Creighton. These two teams, man, it should be fun if anything comes out of this. This should be a fun defensive battle. Neither offenses are too amazing. 3-point percentage airs on the side of San Diego State, but really nothing else out of either one of these teams jumps out at you when you look at records or statistics. They both have good defenses. That's really the one thing I think you can see between these two squads.
Mike?
Well, I was looking up something about the game. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to look up something about this game. Go ahead.
Matt. Yeah, but I mean, I agree. I don't really have any argument against it.
This game's split down the middle. The line's only 2.
Yeah, it is. It is. So
55% took Creighton, 45% took San Diego State.
Yeah,
I picked San Diego State in my polls. What's that?
This is about as even as it gets.
Yeah. I picked San Diego State in my polls mostly because I want to kind of see them make a run, because I've talked about before. Like, I think they got screwed a couple of years ago with the whole virus and they canceled the tournament. Now they're back in it, but as one of those lower 8, 9 seeds. And I kind of want to see them go on a run. So that's mostly why I picked them. But Creighton could very well – Creighton fired up at the end of the season to win some games. So
this is out of the 4, 8, 9 matchups. This is 2 of the 4 that I picked the 8 seed to win. So I'm pretty split with both of them. But I think this game is pretty dead even. Actually, more people are taking the money line to pick Creighton to win outright. But I'm going San Diego State.
Yeah,
I'm with you, man. I think they're gonna. The last time they had a chance to do something, they didn't have it. So
yeah, and I don't like that. I didn't like that they lost their opportunity. A lot of teams lost their opportunity.
Well,
to see
everybody
what they
did.
could do. I mean, Penn State was going to be in it that
I knew
year.
he was going to bring that up.
Damn well I was going to bring it up. That makes me so mad. Now they're not going to be good for another 30 years.
10 years.
Yeah, whatever.
30.
They got some
Yeah,
good
they made
players.
it 10 years ago.
Okay.
They've won the NIT a couple times. Remember when they won the NIT in like
Who
2018?
cares?
That was they still won something.
That just goes. I mean, Mike just goes. Who cares?
Who cares?
It was good, but it's like, who cares? It's
Still,
NIT.
though.
It's not the big
They
dance.
wiped everybody out. Like nobody was a competition.
You know what? In this game, I was a teeter-totter back and forth. I initially had Creighton. We were talking. I flipped it over to San Diego State. Screw it. I'm taking Creighton. I'm going to jump back on it. They finished out so great in this regular season. I mean, and then they jump in there and take down number one Providence by 30 points in that game, and then they just come up short against Villanova. And I mean, they were right there at a potential big jumping spot at the end of the season in the polls. I'm going to flip it back. I'm taking Creighton in this game. The one thing for me, they're without Ryan Nembhard, and he might be one of their best players on that squad. And to me, not having him out there is definitely going to hurt. But San Diego State's got a couple of guys that are also key factors in their offense. I mean, Kashad Johnson averages 7 points and nearly 5 rebounds a game, plays 23 minutes for them. That's your 6th, 7th man. Not having that out there, I think, is going to hurt them. They got Keith Dinwiddie Jr. He's not going to be playing in this game. He might, who knows? I mean, everyone's, game time decisions at this point for a lot of these positions. But he's a guy that normally plays 11 minutes for this team. They're missing about 10, 15 points potentially with, half the game off the bench. So I got some concerns about San Diego's being at full strength. And obviously Ryan Nembhard is the one factor for me that I think could lead to a Creighton loss in this game. I mean, he averaged 35 minutes per game at 11 points. So clearly that's going to be a bad spot for this team. So I'm going to take Creighton. I got faith in them to finish this thing out. I mean, they played fine down the regular stretch of the season, so why not be able to start out strong here in the dance?
And these are teams that are normally in the tournament too, so they're no strangers.
Right. That experience brings back too.
Right.
Well, Matt, somewhere we're going to go into the St. Mary's and Indiana game. I decided to flip this one around since it was decided last night. I flipped one of the other to-be-decided games back over to Friday. I had to do some shuffling here. That's why it was quite a few minutes ago. But Indiana, St. Mary's. Mike, what's your thought here? Because I'm kind of torn. A lot of people are taking St. Mary's, but I think you got to remember how Indiana really kind of finished this season on a bit of a high note with some of those final games. And obviously, taking down Wyoming that first round is no small feat. Remember, their last loss was by 3 to Iowa. They lost by just 2 points to Purdue, and they lost by 3 points to Rutgers. All three teams sit in March Madness, and they also put wins in there against Illinois and Michigan. They had one of the hardest final stretches of the season to go through. To me, Indiana is one of these 12 seeds I think you have to look at to make some noise, because can you imagine what this team could have been if they were in the WCC? They would have been second place. They would have been where St. Mary's was, in my opinion, going into this game. So they may have even beaten Gonzaga. Who knows? But to me, with Indiana in this game, they got all the talent. It's there. They got experience. It's there from being in the Big Ten all season long. It's just a question for me. Are they going to put it together at the right time? Because I think you've seen them kind of fall apart. But that semifinals run in Indianapolis from the Big Ten tournament, I think, is huge. First time they got there since 2016. Trace Jackson Davis averaged 25 points per game.
He's a ball player,
which is phenomenal, including a 31-point performance in that second loss to Iowa on Saturday. I mean, if they can get this thing going, I mean, that comes down to Mike Woodson, the head coach for the Hoosiers, to get this team fired up. It's going to come down to Trace Jackson Davis. They got a couple injuries, and that is going to hurt a little bit. I mean, they got to be about 8 points out sitting on the bench. I think it hurts. But I think this is a team in Indiana that is going up against a St. Mary's squad that outside of the top 3 of the WCC, was there any competition there? No. So you have to look at what this team did out of conference. 3 top 25 games, just 1 win out of it. Their net ranking is really high. Their strength of schedule is really high. But how you have 5th strongest schedule if you only had 3 top 25 matchups? Indiana had 10. There's a huge difference in what's been going on. You would see better numbers for Indiana if they only had 3 top 25 matchups. I can promise you that. They had to run through a gauntlet of the Big Ten. I'm taking Indiana all day in this one. Everyone wants to talk about Gonzaga being overrated. They play in a weak conference, this and that. Well, Gonzaga wiped the floor with St. Mary's in this conference, one of their 2 matchups. I mean, St. Mary's got one. Don't get me wrong. But I think that's just proved how
they got one.
Is. I think you got two frauds at the top of it, of the WCC. I'm giving Gonzaga the benefit of the doubt based on experience and who they got. St. Mary's doesn't have a superstar. They're not loaded with NBA potential. They got a guy, Matthias Tass, who averages 13 points per game.
We've seen this before, though.
Half the game.
We've seen teams that don't have anybody that could be in the NBA win championships.
And we've seen teams fall out. There are so many what ifs, or hey, look at this.
There is.
All that matters is what happens now, Matt. And to me,
that's March Madness.
It is March Madness.
Cool. They have no experience on this team of being in this stage.
Indiana
they didn't get back here They didn't get here last year.
Too,
I mean, the guy Matthias Tass, he's a big guy, and that's going to help. But he's their leading scorer and rebounder. He's only getting 6 boards a game. St. Mary's doesn't have the metrics right now to compete with Indiana.
It's Indiana.
When you look at this and actually break it down, St. Mary's to me might be the biggest overrated 5 seed we have on the entire.
They might be. They
should be in They should be in March Madness, not as a 5.
Go ahead, Matt.
I'm kind of choked up about this right now because I picked St. Mary's to go a little far.
Well, keep rolling with them. Don't let Alek can persuade you. Stay with your pick.
I'm not persuading. Listen,
Matt, I'm persuading.
I'm going to give you my point. I'm going to give you my point here. I love Indiana. I love their hard-nosed team. But I think I picked 2 of these Big Ten teams to maybe go past the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
They're beaten up. It's a beaten up division. You know, St. Mary's, same division as Gonzaga.
In March Madness. I mean, they
don't get beat up in that
you can
division.
say it.
They don't get beat up in that division at all. Big Ten, man, they get torn up. Period.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert! I have one Big Ten team going to Sweet 16. Michigan State.
I got Wisconsin going, I think, and I got Iowa making a little.
Oh wait, actually, yeah, I have Wisconsin go to the Elite 8. That's 2.
I got Purdue and Wisconsin there.
I got Purdue in the second round.
Potential.
It's potential.
I mean,
you gotta have fun with these brackets. You can't. You can't let other people persuade you to pick other teams.
There's no right or wrong answer with any of these.
No, there's no right or wrong because nobody officially knows. I mean, even us here, we don't know who's going to win these games. We're picking these games to, first of all, it's the basis of our show, and
don't give away our secrets.
Yeah, I mean, we're just giving our knowledge of like who you should pick, but if you don't want to pick,
who we're picking.
Or who we're picking.
Like Alek said, we're not persuading these viewers. I'm just telling you what I want.
We're not persuading anybody to pick anybody. We're just here talking about games.
That's
what I love. What?
I'm telling you guys why I made the picks I did.
Like same thing, with Alek, you picking Vermont to go like what'd you have going?
Sweet 16, baby.
Like I love that.
You gotta be ballsy. I told you this.
Like everybody has different opinions, and
we know this.
So I mean, it's all different. So it doesn't matter who you pick or not.
With this game though,
Matt, you got to pick somebody here.
You got to pick somebody.
I know you're racing, Matt. I know you're just calling here to try and figure out who you want to take in this.
Yeah.
Give me your official lock. You going St. Mary's or Indy? Give me the lock.
I'll go first. I'm going to St. Mary's.
I'm going St. Mary's too.
All right.
I'm going St. Mary's.
I like it, man. You got to pick it. St. Mary's is a higher seed. I'm picking the upset. It shouldn't be an upset across the board. Then it's not an upset.
I just like.
True. It should be a lone wolf.
There's a lot of storylines coming out of this game too, with Trace Jackson Davis and then Mike Woodson, coaching that team that he was at, and then with St. Mary's. I mean, like you said, they beat San Francisco twice. I think they beat Gonzaga once, so they have some decent ones on the resume. So there's good storylines every matchup, but there's in this one in particular.
And the more you've been talking about that Jacksonville State team beating Auburn, I've been thinking about it way more since you've said something about it. I'm not going to, but I'm like, what if it happens? What if it happens? Because
what if? Yeah.
There's a ton of what ifs. This whole tournament is what if.
All right, can we move on? He's repeating himself.
Yeah, we're going to move on here. I was just putting something up to show it. I'm going to show you guys who's going to win this game, and it's Mike Woodson. Just throwing his face up there. I was like looking it up, and this is the first thing that popped in here. I'm Alek Koberna, that's Mike Woodson, and Matt Wolfgang. Matt Morrison. We got a new pick on the show. No, I
That's
throw
funny.
I'm like, that's too perfect not to throw out there. But yeah, I'm taking Mike Woodson and the Hoosiers, man. I might hate the Hoosiers movie, but I'm taking the Hoosiers to win this game.
Hey, listen, I love that, Mike.
It's the most overrated sports movie
it's
of
good.
all time.
I love that movie. It's
Overrated.
not the most overrated. They're playing basketball in Indiana.
Exactly.
It's awesome. How's it overrated? It's awesome.
We got to move on. There's more sports to talk about. I'm not getting stuck on why Hoosiers is not that great of a movie.
No.
Speaking of that upset you were talking about a minute ago, Jacksonville State versus Auburn's our next game we're talking about. Just 3% of the nation has picked Jacksonville State in this upset. Surprisingly, that's the highest amount, I think, by any 15 seed to potentially pull an upset. St. Peter sits at just 2%. Delaware sits at 2%, and CS Fullerton sits at 2%. So this is the highest picked upset out of your round of 64 for a top-seeded Auburn squad, who really, in my estimation, was the best team in the SEC this season. I love them, but Jacksonville State's got the numbers, man. And if you look at the shooting percentages for Auburn, you would not imagine in any other conference they go 15-3 in conference play. They shot 32% from three-point range this season. That is 263rd in the nation. They shot 44% from the field. That is 183rd in the nation. And then they're still above 100th in free throw percentage. That's the only category they have over Jacksonville State, who shot a measly 68% from the free throw stripe, which ranked 202nd in the nation. But Jacksonville State shot 5th in the nation when it came to threes, 36th in field goal percentage. They have the metrics to get this done. And the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, led by Darian Adams, I think have a shot.
Maybe.
I'm taking Jacksonville State in this one. It's bold, but I was looking at one of these and I went, I want to take one. And this is what I'm going with.
I'm still going with Auburn.
I'm going to go with Auburn, too. I'm looking at Charles Barkley.
Only an idiot would pick this, and that's what I am. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, but you were kind of talking them up.
Wait, what did you just say?
What?
You finally admitted it that he's an idiot. Yes!
Huh?
Yeah, but I'm a ballsy one.
Yeah.
I didn't call him an idiot.
But, hey, you can see it. Jacksonville State, at least in football, has made some close games in the football. So, I mean, I think. But, I mean, hey, you're in the tournament and you're like, I mean, it doesn't mean like 15 seeds and 16 seeds, like they don't really like percentage wise, you don't have a shot, but we've seen it once and it's very well going to happen again. So
we saw
Ohio State
last year. So
we've seen all the upsets. We've seen
more likely.
It's always going to start with the first team to do it. Like the first team to come back from 3-1 or first 16 seed to win. That's how it all starts. It's going to happen again. It may not be this year, next year, or in 10 years, but it's going to happen again. So you have a chance. It doesn't matter who you pick. I mean, they have the chance to win because they're here. They're here. They made it. So.
And here's the number. Here's the number for you guys, by the way.
What?
Out of 144 matchups, the 15 seed has won just 9 times. 9
Yeah,
wins.
what was it, like 124 and 9?
135 and 9.
135 and 9.
Yeah, man, I told you there was 144 matchups and that the 15 seed has won 9 of them.
Oh,
Your math was way off there.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, we all get to hear Matt selective listening.
Oh, jeez.
Sometimes I don't even like. That's why I make Mike go first all the time because I don't.
Yeah, Oral Roberts was the first.
Oh, thanks,
over
Matt.
15. Was the first 2 over 15 win since 2016. So it was a while. I mean, 5 years in between. But at the end of the day, it's a basketball game. It's simple. You just got to do it.
It's simple. You pass and you shoot. Sometimes you steal it. No.
If you're good.
Defense.
Good breakdown.
Yeah, but I as much as I've hyped up, Auburn this season, and I really do like what they have here. I think there's potential for an upset. It's here because the shooting numbers for Auburn are terrible, and I think that came to the forefront when they took on Texas A&M in that final game of the tournament, 62-67. They fell short. It's the team they should have beat. I mean, they're shooting their points per game on the season sit at 78.7. How do they score 20 points less than their average in 3 of their last 4 games? to me, statistics paint a picture. They don't tell you the story.
Well, I got Auburn losing in the next round anyways.
Who really?
Miami.
Yep.
To Miami. Oh,
Yep.
man.
Okay.
Miami's a hardball team, though. Like,
I'll give you guys a spoiler alert. I don't have Miami or USC winning in the next round.
I don't either. I
got Jacksonville State making their way down to the Sweet 16.
Are you serious?
You know what, man? I've had the worst brackets possible in all 20 years of me filling this thing out. Every year I filled this thing out, I am dead last in my family. I am nowhere close to anybody. You know, I
embrace it.
You know what? Screw it. I got destroyed last year trying to pick, the smart picks. I'm done being smart. This is March Madness. I'm looking at it. I'm flipping a coin, waiting for the wind to blow to make my decision. I don't care. I'm throwing these things out here, and I'm letting fate determine if it wants to let me be right for once.
There you go.
That's it.
There
That's
you
what I'm
have
going
it,
for.
folks.
Now the last one, Loyola versus Ohio State.
You guys can have this one.
This one.
Oh, you know who I'm going with, and you know who that guy.
I got a feeling who Mike's going with too. I mean, he hates Ohio State, so I mean,
I picked him to go far last year. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, we all did it. We all screwed up. I'm picking Ohio State, one, because they're my team, and two, they have the weapons to do it. I mean, it's not like they're a bad team, but they just keep on flopping at the worst moments. Every time it looks like, hey, they might be doing something. Second half comes around and they get smacked in the face. Now, sure, they've had some bad calls against them. I'm not going to blame it on it. You don't lose a basketball game by one or two calls. You'll win it by just being the flat-out better team. So coming to this one, they're both phenomenal shooting teams, and maybe that's the one thing Ohio State didn't have last year when they went up against Oral Roberts. They couldn't shoot the ball very well. They were a strong defensive unit, but they really couldn't shoot. Now, this year, they ranked top 35 in every statistical category in percentages in the nation. Loyola, they're coming in top 20 in field goal percentage, top 10 in three-point percentage. So the recipe is there for the upset in my eyes. Free throw percentage, though, might be something to watch out for Loyola if Ohio State gets in foul trouble. It might not be that bad. The one thing, Ohio State, they got a lot of injuries. Zed Key is a game-time decision, and that could be huge. Kyle Young out with an illness still. He's going to be a game-time decision whether or not he'll be ready to go. He wasn't ready for the final stages of the Big Ten tournament, but there's speculation he's going to be ready to go by this game. I think you put Kyle Young out there on the floor, that's the game changer. That's what wins Ohio State this game, because outside of him, their defense is lackluster. I'll admit it. Ohio State's defense has been piss poor at times. Kyle Young puts this defense back on the map and gives them something to anchor, because Liddell is fine. But we talked about it last year. When Kyle Young was in the game, Ohio State was a top 10 team. When he is out, they're just another run-of-the-mill Big Ten squad.
Yeah, wasn't he hurt last year for the tournament?
Yes.
So there's that. But
Zed Key is also a big loss, and not having Justice or Seth Towns for a good portion of this season has definitely started to hurt Ohio State, especially down the stretch. And you got a perfectly healthy Loyola squad. That's maybe the one big thing.
That's the thing.
If Ohio State can get their guys in here, it should be a win for them. Should be.
That's where I was going to go with Loyola. It's they've lost a couple guys from last year, like Krutwig and Matt and guys like that.
Dean Krutwig,
but they've been on the last two times they've been in turns. They've gone on runs. We've been talking about all these teams' experience. Ohio State gets in, especially last year, and they lose. So I mean, they have what it takes to beat this team, obviously. But are they going to do it? I got more confidence in Loyola than Ohio State right now. I do.
Me too.
That's fair.
And that's pretty much my team in college.
And it's not hating on Ohio State. It's just a fact. Because
not at all.
Even Alek admits, it's just the way they are when they get in the tournament. You don't know what you're going to get out of them.
One of these years,
here's the one thing. Thad Matta raised expectations here for Ohio State. And now I think it's time, as Ohio State fans, I'm putting this out there, not to you guys, as Ohio State fans, to Ohio State fans out there, we have to be realistic about the expectations of Chris Holtman. Guy is a great recruiter. I don't think you can really deny that. But much like Jim Harbaugh, who's a great recruiter for Michigan, he can't develop. And that's what we're seeing right now. These guys, they're great. but they don't get any better throughout their tenure at Ohio State, and that's why they're not getting drafted. It's because they're the same player that they were in high school. So limit your expectations. This isn't a team that's going to the Sweet 16 or their Final Four anymore. They could get there. Yeah, sure. I mean, if we have a good season, that happens. But that's no longer the expectation for Ohio State. Ohio State, I'm fine with round of 32 at the moment because that is the realistic expectation. Compete for a Big Ten title and maybe do something in the tournament. I'm not expecting titles out of this basketball squad, much like you guys are being realistic about your expectations with Penn State in football and in basketball. You know what your teams are. Mike, even with the Cowboys in football, you know what your team is in the regular season and what they are in the postseason. Different stories.
It's like, I know.
It's just the same. It's the same thing going on. Cowboys, great regular season. Ohio State, pretty good in the regular season. You can't deny it. I mean, top four and maybe the toughest conference in all of basketball. Then they get here to the postseason, and it's a flop. Same thing with the Cowboys. So for me, with the Ohio State, just realize expectations aren't up here where Thad Matta set them. They're back down here at the start. It's a fresh start for Ohio State with Chris Holtmann. You got to let this thing take time.
Well, since you brought it up,
we're not going to have another Thad Matta. Thad Matta was maybe the best coach Ohio State will ever have in that head coaching for basketball. And he also hit at the right era, too. He hit at the right time with his style, and he got the right guys.
Since you brought it up, though, I'll give – again, since we brought them up twice in the show so far, Matt, I know it didn't always show this year, but it felt like under Micah Shrewsbury that Penn State's going to build something. Maybe not record-wise this year, but competitive-wise, guys, he's going to start getting his own guys in pretty soon. I'm looking forward to that. So, enough on them, but let's move on to this game.
Yeah.
I just had to throw it out there.
You guys know I'm taking Ohio State. I'm rolling with them. If Ohio State puts this together, I got them as a Sweet 16 team.
I do too.
They have the guys to do it. I think they can beat Loyola. I think they can beat Nova. I think they got a shot against Tennessee. Hell, if they put this thing together at the right time, they could win, but they don't ever put it together. You look at what this team does at this point of the season, they fall apart. They make the simple mistakes, and they lose every time. To me, Kyle Young and Zed Keith, they aren't in this game. Yeah, it's probably Loyola's game to lose. Yeah, because they've had a great season.
They have. They've had a great
season.
Lucas Williamson and Braden Norris, those are your two guys for Loyola that have to go off. And they've been doing it all year. I mean, Williamson is averaging 14 points a game. Norris is right behind with 10.3. Norris can dish that ball out. He can get it out to the wing. I like his passing. I like his drive as a pointer. He's a smaller guy, but he's a heck of a point guard. But I've loved watching this team for the past 4 years. So I was got to roll with them. Sister Jean's gonna be there. So
I mean, I kind of already gave mine away. It's not hating on Ohio State. It's just, I'm talking confident wise. Ohio State should win. But when you're talking about a team that has been together, that's Loyola. When you talk about, talent wise, points to Ohio State. But when you talk about experience, everything else points to Loyola in this game. And that's kind of where I got to go with it.
Yeah. I get it, man. I understand. There's 100 reasons not to pick my Buckeyes. We ain't going to see me predicting them a first-round exit.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't either. But
I got to hope for a little better than that. Come on. I got to hope for at least one win here.
But it's again, we're talking about Loyola having a bunch of their guys that they've been familiar with. Ohio State does too, and they had a bunch of these guys they had last year. They were in that first-round loss that they had.
I don't think you want to see that. I don't think they want to get that repeat on them too. I think that's maybe one of the biggest things.
That's something they have in their favor too. This is one of the better first round matchups.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to hand it back to you, Matt. You got 5 minutes here. Rapid fire, 3 different sports leagues. Your brackets lock in 21 hours, 20 minutes, and 11 seconds. So get them in, guys. It's coming down to the wire. This thing tips off. Let's go. We already got the second round of the first 4 gun up tonight. But Matt, take it away here, NBA style.
All right. Well, first game we're going to talk about Celtics versus Warriors. Warriors have been kind of falling off a little bit, and the Celtics have been on a rampage. Like they've finally woken up a little bit with the team they've had and said, "Hey, we're going to start winning games," and that's what they've been doing. And honestly, of all the teams that they've had, of all the teams that they said they were going to make runs with Kyrie Irving and even with Kemba Walker, I think this team actually has a better shot than both of those teams.
Yeah, I would say so.
They still have Jaylen Brown and who's the old guy?
Tatum.
Tatum. They still have Tatum and there's the older guy. I forget his name.
Al
The big
Horford.
guy.
Don't worry about the names now, Matt. You're down to 4.5.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, rapid fire, who you guys going here? Warriors or Celtics? Do the Warriors
Mike?
get back on track or do Celtics keep on fire?
I think Warriors get back on track.
You think?
Get back on track. Guys, they've won 4 straight games. They've gotten back on track.
They've gotten
back on
on the
track.
tracks here. Celtics lost their last time out. I think they take another loss here. And it opens the door for the Cavs to maybe jump them potentially here in the
Yeah, I
next
know.
week.
I'm going to go
That's another
Warriors,
reason why I went
too.
Golden State.
I'm going Warriors, too. Okay. Next game here, we're going to skip the next NBA game, mostly because I accidentally exited out of the tab, and I don't remember what game it was. So we're going to
Bulls
jump right
versus
into
Jazz.
hockey. Huh?
Bulls versus
Bulls, Jazz.
Jazz.
Oh, Bulls versus Jazz. I'm going Bulls.
I got
I got
Jazz.
Bulls.
Jazz Bulls. Okay, sweet. Next game here, we're going into NHL hockey. We got the Bruins and we got the Wild. This is probably the best game on today. Well, actually, yeah, today.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, I might have saw that all the games were bad today and just jumped into the next day. But this is actually the best game today. Bruins are a tough team. Actually, for the first time in history, I think I'm going to pick the Bruins
Oh, wow.
over Minnesota because they're just tough. They just kick your butt.
I might actually go Boston as well because I feel like every time I pick Minnesota, they don't do anything.
Yeah, I got to go Bruins.
Man. Well, my differential tells me to take the Wild in this game, but they're 3-6-1 in the last 10. They've lost 2 straight. In the Bruins,
Roll
man,
with it.
8-1-1 in their last 10 games.
Alek, I never picked the Bruins.
That's a good
When
point.
I picked them,
And it feels like every time I go to pick the Bruins, they mess with me. So you know what? I've been bold today. I'll take the Wild. They're on a
Okay.
losing streak. They got to pick it up at some point. I'll flip it back. The Bruins always disappoint me, and they always whatever I pick with.
I'm
the
glad they
Bruins
disappoint
again. So you guys are going to
But-
take home tonight's win.
yeah. But that's it. That's gonna be it
all
for
we
the
got.
Casual Sports Podcast. Hey, everybody, be sure to tune into the Power Hour next up here. Those guys
Yes.
can run a pretty good show. But we'll see you next time
good.
here tomorrow on YSN Live.
Yeah, a lot more March Madness to go over. I'm
More to
Alek,
come.
Matt Morrison, Mike Wolfgang.
Yep.
Guys, it's been fun. Can't wait for another one tomorrow. More madness as the tournament hits go.
Go.